Hi, I'm Paul Roberts. This is Conscious Counseling 101. Normally I just talk, and what I offer I already have. Today I want to bust through a barrier. I want to think about something and come to the conclusion as I'm talking about it. I want to talk about the yin-yang and the road less traveled, and what it represents and how we can understand the yin-yang principle and how everything in this world is influencing everything else. I'd like to talk about the sexual scandal things with Harvey Weinstein, stuff like that, for examples. But also I'd like to talk about my parents again too, because we understand, we've observed our parents all our life. We have a lot to gain from understanding from them. What makes something a prized possession? What makes something that you would desire? We could say, well, it gives us pleasure. We could say it gives us some kind of a gratification, but it doesn't always give us a pleasure necessarily. I want to propose that one of the things that makes something desirable is its unobtainability or its difficulty in obtaining. And we get a false sense of fulfillment or pleasure fulfillment by obtaining it, but it's not real, and it perpetuates the fact that we didn't really get something that was valuable, the fact that we didn't get something that was really something we were wanting for our pleasure leaves us hollow, and we start all over again. And this is what happens with the yin-yang. Everyone that is searching for something and wanting something, if it's not genuine, if it's not good, for lack of a better word, we run after it thinking it must be good. Maybe it's not good. Maybe it's something we just want to have because it's so hard to get. We gain it, and we're helping to produce the effect, the equal and opposite effect for the rest of the people. And they're seeing it the same way we are, but they're on the other side of the yin-yang. This could also be interpreted as good and evil. We're actually creating what is making somebody go after something by our going after it ourselves. We talk about the darkness, the lack of consciousness, the lack of understanding. We're wallowing in the darkness, whereas we think we see as we go forward. We're actually causing a darkness for others. Let's talk about it in a very shallow, trivial way. Harvey Weinstein, stuff like that. For examples, sexual predator. This person thought, well, this is hard to gain. I'm not able to get these great acquisitions. I'm not able to gain them because society has been set up in such a way that it's not open to me. But I'm such a great, powerful person, I should be able to get these great acquisitions. The thing that they wanted was a small thing, a small part of the whole. But the overall that makes it bigger and makes it more difficult, the thing that makes it greater or more desirous is that it can't be gotten. And that becomes a whole acquisition thing, where it's all about the acquisition of it. So the pleasure is involved in the acquisition of it. The ego. I can do it because of who I am and what I've done. But the ironic thing is, and let's just look at this, these people that were acquisitioned, they were propositioned, may have come, may have not come. That's irrelevant, what their choice is. What they need to realize is the fact that they could even be challenged to come exists because they've voluntarily taken part in a role-playing of making the idea all prevalent to those that would watch and view that this thing was valuable and unobtainable in the first place. And they'll, if you pay them, go and produce that effect for the man. But when the effect is perpetuated, we can't have it. So we're perpetually putting the thing that we want out of our reach, but we're perpetually saying this is important to have. And the essence of that creates that yin-yang thing. When you try to call somebody on it, like Harvey, he's just an unwitting victim to the situation of the monster he built. He's the Frankenstein. And the monster is his empire and his way that it's affected the world and the way that he's made it seem as though what he wants is valuable because he's made it harder to get to, and so he makes it more valuable. And then he goes and tries to acquire it. He has to do things that are wrong in order to acquire it. And he sets up this whole thing. But the media portrays it as just him. No. It's the people even that said no to his advances. It's the people that did his bidding working for the man. And I don't mean the man him. I mean the man all of industry, Hollywood. Anything that goes up there and transfers the man's vision to the great populace. Now, I remember when I came out of college, I really had a great purpose for my life. I wanted to call my company Televisionaries because I didn't want to sit in a drawing board like my father. I wanted to be the visionary that I am. I already was. I started out being the visionary. I knew I had a long way to go, but I was. And I wanted to express it with the moving image, the audio, the expression of ideas, maybe through a script or maybe just the way I'm doing it now. So I am living out what I was supposed to do and wanted to do, but how effective will I be? I go by Artsy1. My goal is to be able to see, but then transfer through a medium so that others can see. What I'm trying to do is show that they first perpetuate the monster or the trap and then step into it. This is the yin yang. If the thing was easy to come by that he wanted, he wouldn't want it or need it. The fact that everything is made up of, you need this, this will help you, sex sells, this is going to be the way you live, vitality, zest for life, comes from these out of reach things, and then you, because you are so big and powerful, and you have the ability to reach them. Or you try, and they're the limited abilities. The way that he went about things was crazy, but he would reach out. And each of us does this in their own ways. I did it with a full commitment to a marriage and a long run. Say, oh, this is my purpose in life. This is my other being that we come together. And it's difficult in itself because I asked my wife the other night, is there anybody that you know that realizes what we realize and still fights and works towards it and gets through the rough spots? I couldn't think of anybody. Nobody I've ever met or known is committed to what we're committed to, shares with others, brings in to the level that we do, and in spite of our understanding and our knowledge and our heightened conscious about what we're going through, sticks to it. I don't mean just sticks to it because that's what you're supposed to do, otherwise you're going to be made to look like you're not a good person or something like that, or that's what society expects. I mean, you really see it all and you still stick to it. And you make your life purpose about it. That's what I'm talking about. All these people that avoid that, get involved in the yin-yang, okay? They're perpetuating what the others fall victim to while they're gaining what they're gaining. I have to go in there some way and see it and not become a victim of it. One of my friends put a video on that he was sharing with someone else about how the news makes negative thinking. And he's a motivational speaker that sells what he does, doesn't give it away. And so he's still serving money. It's so funny. He's talking about not being negative, and he's talking about motivating people to do better and to gain the reward of following his motivational speaking. And yet he's got these things, you know how on the internet they all put like these little things that they're a saying, you know, a catchy saying and a little graphic. And his says, I don't like to use derogatory language, but language used to convey information in order to help benefit things, actually I believe can be good. So it won't be used out of context. I'll just say his saying said, the world is full of a-holes and you meet one every day, or something like that. Then it says, well, it's not really full of them. It's just that they're proportioned for everyone in the grand scheme of things so that you'll meet one every day. I mean, that's the divine using the Lord's name in vain because the Creator made sure that happened to you. And I wrote him back and I said, I can't believe you, a motivational positive thinker that's talking about the news making you negative would go ahead and say something like that, because what he's actually saying is, I thrust my hand at you. You've made a world so that I must meet an a-hole every day. And I said, no, they're not a-holes. They're gems that you haven't discovered and helped polish yet. They're gems that haven't discovered themselves yet and haven't started to polish themselves yet. And I challenged him. I said, how can a motivational speaker that's about positive thinking have that mindset that everybody is forced by God or Creator or just circumstance in life to encounter an a-hole every single day? It's like the most negative, derogatory, blocking thing I can think of, and yet he's trying to do these videos on busting through. And I said, the only thing that's going to bust through is love. So when you go into that vortex of the yin-yang, you must go in with love. If you go into it thinking you're going to sort it out and decompartmentalize the chaos, It's like that scene in The Matrix 2 where he's fighting the never-ending Smiths, You can't do it. You've got to inject something that makes them do it. Now, this is what Jesus did. He injected the light. He injected the word. He gave the tools, but he also said he didn't come to bring peace, and he knew that they wouldn't elect to do it. Now, here we are 2,000 years later, and my life purpose is to try to find a way to take on what he took on and be successful. Find a way to show the light that's already there in a way that they can't see it, so that they then can see. Artsy One wants to help show what he sees through the conveyance of art, through media, to help other individuals see. I'd like to do it on a mass basis, but I'll stick with the Good Shepherd parable if I must, only reaching one in my entire life if need be. But the point I'm trying to make is the whole world is creating the yin-yang thing. The whole world is perpetuating what the other side is seeing. In politics, same thing. The well-to-do want to maintain that well-to-do, and they say, because we will maintain that well-to-do, we'll give to the rest of you. But of course, greed gets in the way. Greed only gives pittance to the rest of them. And the greed, deadly sin, is so it's called, is allowed to be fostered and grow. And then it creates damage on that side. On the other side, freedoms and rights and all kinds of things, and allows for sloth and allows for negative ways of being to be held up as high as every other way of being. And the disillusionment causes a total fog. And there's no virtue or ability to build anything on a rock of substance whatsoever. Just anything goes. And that creates the other side. And so these two diametrically opposed forces are fighting, and they're each able to say, look, you're that. Look, you're that. But they don't say, oh yeah, I see that I'm that too. The little tail. Look around the corner at the tail before you go over to the other side. I'm that too. They can both do that. Now, love and light can help to show wherever you are on that curve, whichever side, the full perspective of the whole of your side, all the way to the tail, all the way to the bulky part, all the way to the tail of the next, all the way to the bulky part, and around and around and around. Heightened conscious and love can break through that cycle so that you as an individual can see it for what it is. As you examine and you're an analytical thinker of all these things, you can break through. Now, I've done that. It's frustrating and lonely. I call it the road less traveled. If you want to talk about what Jesus says, very few will find it. It's the narrow, very narrow path. And the rest are on the road that is broad and paved and leading towards destruction. But being on the path is not good enough for me. I want to be able to help others to see that path. I want to be able to be empowered to help others to see why they're tripping up. I like to look at the Old Covenant with the Jews in the Old Testament. And all the stumbling blocks were given to them. God knew man's weakness to be how important and to make things overly legalistic, and so that a few people would rise up to more power and more greater things, rather than having faith that they'd all be given what they needed to have. And God allowed that to be a stumbling block so that the man that was given the power would trickle down all the way to the lower ones, the message of what God was trying to convey, because God used priests and messengers at that time, to the point where it was so distorted that they couldn't even see where they had come from, where they were, or where they were going. And of course, they still discount Jesus and the light to this day because of that. That's a stumbling block. Now, Jesus came and he left. He left us the Holy Spirit, but we're still following patterns of stumbling blocks as they were, even though we have direct access to God. We don't know that there is, right? So therefore, what are we doing? We're stumbling around. We're saying, in the dark, in our yin-yang, wherever we are, we're saying, what can I do? What can I alleviate? How can I alleviate this pressure? How can I alleviate this pain? And if we stay there and don't have the focus of the whole, we doom ourselves. And I think the focus of the whole is love, because you stop it going around pointing at the other side if you have love. You can't inflict your animosity and negativity and pain on others and blame because you have love. So you stop your involvement in that yin-yang circular movement. But how do you stop the others? How do you make them see? That's the real question. And Jesus says he didn't come to be a peacemaker. He couldn't make everybody see. And if he can't do it, why should I, right? Am I feeling as though I can't because he couldn't and he was greater? Yeah, I guess in a way. So then I say, well, what's my life purpose then? If I can't because he didn't, how could I? That's one of the things I stumble on. That's one of the things I do not know. And that's why I'm making this video, because I'm saying, I was going to say I don't know before I started out, and I knew I would not reach a conclusion within this video, and sure enough, I'm not. But that's my life purpose. How do I believe that I'm to do something, conceive that I won't be able to do it, and yet try anyway? That's the conundrum that I live in my life purpose. My heightened conscious search is to try to resolve that conundrum for myself, my wife, my family, those that I know and would listen to me. But then in doing that, solving of that conundrum, the good that could be done by injecting it back into the yin-yang with the love and the wisdom and the heightened conscious, so that others would take note and stop perpetuating that cycle. Yeah. So I did a good job, I think, of summing up what my thoughts are and what my trouble is. You know, you probably have a lot of troubles. Everybody has financial problems, right? Because the love of money is the root of all evil. Unless we're one of the ones that serves that, chances are we're going to have trouble with it, because we're not going to have enough, and we're going to wonder where we're going to get that from. And we don't have the promise that the Jews have that we're going to get it. We're going to receive it automatically. We don't know that we will. There will be much suffering. In fact, the end days will be made shorter because of the suffering. My purpose has been explained in this video. My quandary has been explained in this video. The best way I can describe it has been explained in this video. The best visual aid of the yin-yang has been explained in this video. What to do about it, or what I am doing about it, has been explained in this video. To have to see results, to me, seems self-gratifying, and it makes me feel like we shouldn't be trying to do that. I could be wrong in that, though. Maybe we can, within our lifetime, if we get enough people to see this, see results. I don't want to say that we have to see results. We shouldn't make that our goal, by all means. When I was a child, I was raised in the pre-Methodist church, and my parents took me there, and I don't remember them saying things that would help me other than what they brought me to. They exposed me to things. They say, here, come, take, learn, drink, eat. And I did. What I got out of that was, we want to avoid hell, and that's why we're compelled to be and do. That's the message I got. When I had my children, I never even told them about hell. I created the imagery in their mind from the heightened, highest commandment to love your brother as yourself, in Jesus' teachings and in love. And I've lived my life according to giving that teaching to them only. And so my goal with my family was to try to make it so that they would only do things not out of an avoidance of consequence like I was raised. They would do things because it's good and right. And their focus would be on that. That's what I've tried to do in my own life with my own family. But I also speak to the world. How should I relate to them? I have no automatic authority with them. They don't even want to listen to this. They just want to titillate their sensibilities and get by with their pain and suffering as best they can until they're dead. So this video is about showing you life's quandary and conundrum, describing it, using a trivial guy and his power, love of money and strength, to perpetuate a system that he makes. Then he gets himself trapped in it. And all the people that are now accusing him were willing to go on the successful ladder, whether they got it through him or on their own merit, and build that thing up that he was going for in the first place, and then condemn him down when he succumbs to it. The whole thing's wrong. What kills me is one side thinks the other is more wrong. That's the thing I see in life that I'd like to show. Because they don't have love or introspection capability. And they have to keep seeing it that way. And they're stuck in that paper bag. And it really is a paper bag, because you can bust through real easily. Knock on the door will be answered. Come to see that love, through he that can show what love truly is, that doesn't require anything back from it, agape love, gave that so that we can now see. Now seeing may or may not be enough, because are we to think we're going to do more and greater if he couldn't? See, this is one of the things that I'm challenged with in my heightened conscious walk every day. And I don't know the answer to it. Some days I'm more faithful and I say, maybe so. Maybe we're supposed to. But then I hold myself back like a flea circus. You know, they'll jump up in the shoebox. I don't know if it really happens. And then you take the box off and they still won't jump up any higher because they think, well, the box top's still there. Same thing. Is there a box top that I'm creating in my mind that shouldn't be there? This is what the next stage of my enlightenment would need to be thinking about more. And this is where I ask, again, like I normally do, for help. If anybody is entertaining these same concepts, how can you help me? How can we help one another? Because we can't see these things, we can't know them. We're only fathoming. This is what separates man from the animals, the ability to fathom the infinite. Fathoming is a good tool, but without faith and love, men and women apply it to life success, wealth accumulation, gratification. You see that in droves. So people have the power. They have the ability to focus. But what are they doing with it? They're accumulating their treasures here in this world instead of in heaven where nothing can touch it. Harvey did that. And those that are also doing it, it's their turn. They get to lash out. So the charade goes on. But I love the fact that it goes on because then it gives us something to learn from. But only if we're looking. Only if we're looking. Are you looking? You want to look with me? I'll be glad to talk with you about it. It's what I live for. This is Paul Roberts, Conscious Counseling 101.